just going to be a backtesting session on FX replay, and to know I'm not bullshitting, I'm just going to click here, go to the next New York session. Okay, so we're at 8:30. This is pre-market. I'm just going to show you how I work with SMTs and IFVGs in the market, and how you can put together. This is part of my model. Okay, so we're just going to look on higher time frames for pre-market. So what are we showing? Well, we are still showing we're just within chop right now. This is accumulation, so we're going to be looking for the manipulation move. So we need to wait for a manipulation move because we had accumulation, manipulation. This was just back to accumulation, but essentially, I'm not really seeing anything unless we did have an SMT form off of, let's say, these highs. We may have an SMT. No, but these highs did get swept on ES at this, but this is not really, this might be a valid SMT. Yeah, I would say it's a valid SMT because I don't know. This is kind of a hard SMT to tell. But we do have eagle highs, valid SMT, partially, I'm pretty sure, in pre-market. We aren't really looking for trades. I'm just looking for, different levels where I think price could go for the day, or kind of a nice entry before we start to get to real volatility in the market. So I'm just going to fast forward until 9 o'clock. Okay, so we have 9 o'clock. Here's our manipulation candle out of this distribution, or our manipulation candle. So what are we going to notice off this manipulation candle? Well, we did create a clear as day SMT. I guess you could say even just these highs in general. This high was already taken out on NQ, so this is kind of going to be our external liquidity. And yeah, this is still going to be a valid SMT. I obviously have to wait for this to close, this 15 minutes. So here we go. There's our closure. And this is at 8:45, so I'm probably going to go until 9. So we do end up sweeping it, and that's why you have to wait for the closures, because now it's not a valid fair value gap. On ES, we do invalidate this gap. So now I'm going to expect a bearish bias, okay? Because if you look, yes, we are lagging a little bit on NQ. We are a little bit further behind. But on ES, we had a successful inverse fair value gap on the 15-minute time frame. Boom, it got filled right here. And we'll go to the hourly. On the hourly, we do have this gap that we need to fill, but I'm sure we're just going to fill it. We're going to come up, but we are encroaching a hourly gap on NQ, which we have to watch out for. All right. Now we're looking for really any type of SMT. We aren't seeing any. All right. So, we did invalidate this. So now all I'm going to do is scale down to the 5-minute and look for how price is moving on the 5-minute. All right, so now we're showing that bullish structure again. We have 4 minutes until market opens. All right, so we're clearly respecting this invalidation. We respect this. We'll go to the 3-minute, look for any fair value gaps. So if we do have a close above this, this would give me confluence to trade a little bit higher, but I am a little bit questionable off this hourly gap that we do have up here, this fair value gap, because in some circumstances, we can continue to reject. Off of this, we had one rejection, we had another rejection, and it looks like we'll be able to fill it, but I will probably wait for a fill on ES before I take a trade on NQ, just to be safe, because NQ is a little bit behind anyways. Okay, so just go to the 1-minute. So what's happening here? Okay, so I'm just gonna wait for market open. Market opens. I did not mean to do that. Well, market opens. We have a I think that's 3 minute. Yep, 3 minute. That gets invalidated. Now we can look on the hourly. If we look on the hourly, I don't know why this isn't straight. I like having all my things straight. Okay, if we look on the hourly, we are encroaching this. We need to close above ES, and then I would be inclined to target the top of this, or the top of this liquidity as well. But these are the same areas, so we did invalidate the gap on here, and now we're encroaching another gap up here on ES. I'll be looking for SMT. We could be forming one off of this, but it's not a strong wick, so I'm not very confident on, a valid SMT being formed. Maybe on this right here, if we close right here, I don't even know if this swept it. It did. We did sweep this. Okay. So now I need to look on ES and see if we had a SMT here. I think this will be a nice valid SMT to take a trade off of, okay? But I need to wait for the close anyways, so yeah, that's a valid SMT. Which just sucks, because I just miss my trade sometimes when I see these valid SMTs. I'm waiting for the close. We did invalidate this gap. That's pretty much going to take out the majority of all my entries for the day. So it's just unfortunate, but we'll wait for yeah. I mean, sometimes stuff like this happens. You're not gonna be able to catch a trade. We are having a leg back up. I will be looking for another entry. All I have to do is mark out EQ. This is around the mid-range of EQ. Let's look at the 3 minute. The 3 minute, we're tapping into a 3 minute gap. So once we encroach this 5 minute and tap into this 5 minute, I would be inclined to look for a IFVG on the 1 minute and take another trade, or take a trade, because I did miss out on my trade. Now we just have to look for an SMT at the lows, and yeah, we will have a SMT at the lows here, okay? Because we swept even just here. That's just a big area. But we have an SMT at the highs and the lows, so we can play in either direction. I'm going to wait for a 5 minute to tap into this 5 minute, and then I would be looking for shorts off of it. There we go. We tapped into the 5 minute. We also inversed a 1 minute. What am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to wait and see if the trend changes. So I'll change it to 30 seconds. No, I don't like that. We'll change it to 5 seconds so we're not waiting around. Okay, looks like we're just continuing higher. I would look to inverse this gap. If we can inverse this gap, then I would have a nice entry right here. I want to sell. If we inverse this gap, I would be inclined to enter the trade. But, I mean, we don't always get the trades we want. I obviously missed out on the trade the second we saw at 50 minute. That's why I hate back testing. I like forward testing a lot more, because you're seeing it happen in real time, and it's a lot easier to get your entries. I honestly don't think I would trade after this, because I miss my entire kind of model, I guess you could call it, or what I like to trade generally. Generally, I like to trade 15 minute or 1 hour SMTs with a IFVG, but I'm now looking for a continuation. If we have a close below this, I would be inclined to sell to a short. So there's our close. So onto here, put my stops are up here. Let me just pause this so I can show you how I set this up. So I'm gonna put my stops at the very top of this liquidity. Okay, and I'm gonna set up my short position right there, I guess. So there's our short position set up. Stops up here, and what am I going to target? Well, I'm going to target these relative equal lows for 64 points, okay? And then I'm going to have my break-even point right at this kind of volume imbalance. And yeah, that's how I'm going to go about this trade. And since we're already in, I just fast forward until we get a break-even. Okay, now we're at break-even. I'm just moving my stops, so we're putting no risk or little to no risk on the table. And now, since we're already in the trade, there's nothing I can do about it now. Just let it sit, let it run. And boom, there's TP. So that's kind of how I would take my trade or go about my trading day. As you can see, this is actually a perfect example of me missing out on my first entry, but we came all the way up to the very top of EQ. So we are in a massive premium, all right? And a kind of a breakdown for you guys. Look, we have an SMT at the lows and we have an SMT at the highs, right? Well, on ES, we are lagging significantly behind, and off of this wick, we pretty much linked up. We interlinked within this chop right here. You know, we chopped, and ES was able to pair up with NQ on this. And then, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a 1 minute IFVG. Also, this is a key level right here, so we have to fill this. We have to fill this. This is the devil's mark. But then we enter with a nice 1 to 2 essentially, and we're just putting our stops at these highs, or the kind of the highest swing in the move, I guess you could call it, in the leg. And then our take profit is just gonna be at these relative equal lows, and I mean that's a pretty simple trade. There's also, I mean, we created equal lows here. That was after, but you get the point. But yeah, sometimes you're going to miss your entry, but it doesn't mean you completely get off the markets. I mean, this was just a perfect kind of trade, especially especially on both these pairs. Because if we look at the hourly, right, on the hourly, we do not invalidate this gap, okay? We're still pushing up. And then, or was it the 50-minute that we had the SMT? It was a 50-minute, yeah. So on the 50-minute, we have the SMT form. We have the SMT. We're also tapping into a 15-minute fair value gap, okay? While we are showing bearish structure to the downside, very bearish structure, okay? And even the second trade, or my actual trade that I took, this trade could even be a better trade than the first trade. But I personally, the second I see that 15-minute close with a SMT, but as you saw in the back testing, we closed all the way down there. So we're going to have to look for another entry later on. But let's say the SMT closed right here or somewhere with up here. Then all I'm going to be looking for is a IFVG on the 1 minute time frame. Okay, this would be our IFVG. Since this is lower, I probably wouldn't enter. To be honest, I probably wouldn't have found an entry on this first leg. Okay, so I'm glad I took this trade. This was a very nice trade, but that's how I incorporate 1 hour to 15-minute SMTs plus 1 minute IFVGs, and it's just a combination of switching the time zones and the time frames and making sure we have nothing in our way that could stop us out of our trade. We did have this big 15-minute fair value gap, but we kept showing rejections off of it, which meant, you know, we're going to break through it at some point. And then we have all of this low resistance liquidity that we wanted to target, and we took out this liquidity. Now, we did not take out this liquidity down here, which I'm kind of surprised we didn't, but I think this would be another SMT at the lows. So, you know, SMT plus a 1 minute fair value gap, or, you know, a 1 minute IFVG, it's amazing. Works perfectly. That's how I use it in the market, and that's kind of my example.